Let me ask you something personal. When was the last time you checked your bank account and actually felt good about what you saw? Not relieved, not panicked, not quietly hoping the number was higher than you remembered. Actually good. For a lot of people, that moment has never happened. And it's not because they're bad with money or irresponsible or lazy. It's because nobody ever showed them what the target looks like. The specific number that flips a switch in your brain and changes how you experience everyday life. I'm Ethan, and I spend a probably unhealthy amount of time studying the intersection of money, behavior, and psychology. Specifically why some people seem completely unbothered by financial curveballs, while others are one flat tire away from a full-blown existential crisis. If you've ever wondered what it actually feels like to have $10,000 saved, not just what the number looks like on a screen, but how it physically changes your day, your decisions, your relationships, your sleep, stick around, because we're going to go deep on this today. And before you roll your eyes and say, Ethan, $10,000 is a lot of money, this doesn't apply to me, I hear you. We're going to talk about that too. But first, let me paint you a picture. The world without a safety net picture, a Tuesday afternoon. Nothing dramatic is happening. You're just living your life. And then your phone buzzes. It's a text from your mechanic. Your car needs a new alternator. $780. Now, for some people, that text is mildly annoying. They sigh, they schedule the repair, they go back to whatever they were doing. But for tens of millions of people, that text is the beginning of a spiral. They immediately start calculating. Can I put it on the credit card? How long will it take to pay off? Do I have enough in checking to cover it without overdrafting? Should I ask my parents? Can I even get to work without the car? What if I lose my job because I can't get to work? In about 30 seconds, a $780 car repair has triggered a full cascade of anxiety that will follow that person around for days. Their sleep suffers. Their focus at work suffers. Their patience with their kids or partner suffers. All because of $780. This is what financial insecurity actually costs you. And it's not measured in dollars. It's measured in mental bandwidth, in stress hormones, in the slow erosion of confidence that happens when you spend months or years operating with no margin for error. The cruel irony is that this stress often makes people worse at managing money. When you're anxious and exhausted, you make impulsive decisions. You treat yourself to something small because you feel like you deserve it after everything you've been through. You procrastinate on the hard financial decisions because thinking about money feels overwhelming. The cycle feeds itself, and the exit from that cycle, it starts at $10,000. Why $10,000? Specifically, you might be wondering why $10,000 is the number. Why not $5,000? Why not $15,000? Here's the thing. It's not perfectly precise, but there's a reason this number shows up again and again in personal finance conversations, and it goes beyond just having a round figure to aim for. $10,000 covers the vast majority of financial emergencies that derail average people. Think about the most common financial disasters: car repairs, medical bills, a month or two of living expenses after a job loss, a broken appliance, an unexpected travel expense. The overwhelming majority of these situations cost less than $10,000, which means that once you cross this threshold, you have a realistic answer to almost every financial surprise life can throw at you. But more importantly, and this is the part that doesn't get talked about enough, $10,000 is the amount at which your brain chemistry actually starts to shift. There's a reason it feels qualitatively different from $3,000 or even $7,000. Five figures registers differently in the human mind. It feels like a foundation. It feels like something. When financial researchers study stress and savings, they consistently find that the transition from 4 figures to 5 figures is one of the most psychologically significant jumps in personal finance. It's not just more money, it's a different category of money, and your nervous system knows the difference. The first thing that changes: your relationship with risk. Here's something counterintuitive. People assume that having money makes you more cautious, that you become protective and conservative because now you have something to lose. But the opposite is true. When you have $10,000 saved, you actually become more willing to take smart risks. And smart risk-taking is exactly how wealth grows. Think about it from the perspective of someone with zero savings. Every risk feels existential. Asking for a raise feels dangerous. What if they fire you instead, and you have no cushion? Starting a side hustle feels irresponsible. What if it doesn't work, and you wasted time you could have spent on overtime? Negotiating a job offer feels presumptuous. What if they rescind it, and you end up with nothing? Now think about the same person with $10,000 in the bank. Suddenly, they have runway. If the salary negotiation goes badly, they can survive while they find another opportunity. If the side hustle takes 3 months to get traction, they're not going to lose their apartment. The safety net doesn't make them reckless. It makes them rational. And rational risk-taking is exactly what leads to better opportunities. I've watched this play out so many times. The person who finally asks for the promotion they've deserved for 2 years. The person who finally quits the toxic job even before they have the next one lined up. The person who says no to a bad freelance client because they don't need that particular check. These moments of quiet confidence are almost always preceded by reaching a meaningful savings milestone. Decision fatigue is slowly draining you. Let's talk about something called decision fatigue. Every single day, if you're living without savings, you're making dozens of micro decisions that people with money never have to think about. Do I get the cheaper coffee, or is that just depressing? Can I afford to grab lunch, or should I have packed something? Is it worth buying the slightly better version of this thing, or should I just get the cheapest option? Should I go to the gym, or save the membership fee? Can I afford to get a birthday gift for my friend, or should I just send a card? Every one of these tiny calculations burns mental energy. It's not just annoying, it's cognitively exhausting. By the end of the day, you've spent so much brainpower navigating financial survival that you have nothing left for the bigger questions. The career moves, the side projects, the long-term planning, the creative thinking. When you save $10,000, a huge percentage of these micro decisions simply evaporate. You stop calculating whether you can afford the name brand pasta. You stop agonizing over whether a $12 Uber is justifiable. These decisions still exist, but they're no longer survival questions. They're just preferences. And thinking about preferences instead of survival is an entirely different mental experience. I talked to someone recently who described walking into a grocery store for the first time after hitting $10,000 in savings. She said she almost didn't know what to do with herself. She'd been so used to scanning prices and calculating totals in her head that shopping without that anxiety felt almost disorienting at first. That's how deeply financial stress embeds itself in your daily behavior, and that's how dramatically removing it changes your experience of ordinary life. Your body actually feels different. This isn't just motivational talk. The physiological effects of financial stress are well documented and genuinely serious. Chronic financial stress elevates cortisol, your body's primary stress hormone. Over time, elevated cortisol disrupts sleep, weakens your immune system, contributes to weight gain, increases blood pressure, and accelerates aging. Financial insecurity isn't just unpleasant, it's a health issue. When you build a financial cushion, cortisol levels drop, you sleep more deeply, you wake up less anxious, your immune system functions better, your mood stabilizes, your patience increases. People in your life notice that you seem calmer, more present, easier to be around. This isn't a small thing. We spend a lot of time and money trying to optimize our health, going to the gym, eating well, taking supplements, meditating. But financial stress can undermine all of that. Removing it is one of the highest leverage health improvements most people can make. Your relationships change. Money stress is consistently cited as one of the leading causes of relationship conflict. Not because couples can't handle disagreement about money, but because the anxiety that comes with financial insecurity bleeds into every interaction. When you're stressed about money, you're less patient. You're more reactive. Small things irritate you because your nervous system is already running hot. You have less emotional bandwidth for your partner, your kids, your friends. You might start withdrawing socially because you can't afford to participate in the activities your friends are doing. And rather than admit that, you just slowly disappear. Reaching $10,000 doesn't solve relationship problems, but it removes a massive stressor that was quietly poisoning your interactions with the people you care about. You show up differently. You have more capacity for generosity. Emotionally, and sometimes literally, you can say yes to things you used to have to avoid. The confidence shift nobody talks about. Here's something that takes most people by surprise. Having $10,000 saved changes how you carry yourself in professional situations, even when nobody knows your bank balance. Walk into a job interview when you're broke and desperate, and every single answer you give is subtly colored by that desperation. You're not going to say anything outright, but the interviewer can sense that you need this job. And needing something too badly is never attractive in a negotiation. Walk into the same interview with $10,000 in savings, and you're operating from a completely different place. You can afford to be selective. You can push back a little on a lowball offer. You can take a beat before answering, instead of rushing to please. This quiet confidence is almost impossible to fake, but it emerges naturally when you're not operating from scarcity. The same dynamic plays out in salary negotiations, freelance rate conversations, business deals. The person who genuinely has options behaves differently from the person who only pretends to have options. And behaving like someone with options often leads to actually getting better ones. How you actually get there. Okay, let's be real for a minute. If you're currently living paycheck to paycheck, $10,000 can feel like an almost abstract goal. So let's break this down into something that actually makes sense. The biggest mistake people make when trying to save is going too hard too fast. They cut every expense simultaneously, save aggressively for 2 months, then burn out completely and give up. Sound familiar? The people who actually reach $10,000 and stay there don't do it through extreme deprivation. They do it through consistency and identity shift. The identity shift is the real key. There's a difference between trying to save money and being someone who saves money. When you identify as a saver, every financial decision runs through a different filter. You start noticing expenses you never questioned before. A $15 streaming subscription you haven't used in 3 months. A gym membership that should be canceled. A phone plan that's $40 more per month than it needs to be. These aren't sacrifices. They're just optimizations that a person who pays attention would naturally make. Start absurdly small if you have to. $25 a month, $50. The amount matters far less than the habit. Automate it so it happens before you can spend the money. And then increase it gradually as your income grows or your expenses shrink. A realistic audit of most people's spending reveals that the gap between where they are and where they need to be is smaller than they think. Dining out, subscription services, convenience purchases, impulse buys, these categories alone often add up to hundreds of dollars per month for people who've never actually tracked them. Redirecting even a fraction of that consistently will get you to $10,000 faster than you expect. What comes after $10,000? Here's the beautiful thing about reaching this milestone. It creates momentum that makes the next milestone feel less impossible. Saving your first $10,000 proves something to yourself that no amount of motivational content ever could, that you are capable of delayed gratification, that you can build something over time, that your financial future is something you have agency over. And once you believe that, truly believe it, not just intellectually understand it, the question naturally shifts from, how do I survive this month, to, what do I actually want to build? That's when people start getting serious about investing, about starting businesses, about planning for retirement, about creating multiple income streams. Not because they suddenly got smarter about money, but because they finally have the mental space and the confidence to think long-term. The first $10,000 is the hardest. It requires the most intentionality, the most habit building, the most identity-level change. But it's also the most transformative, because the version of you that exists on the other side of that milestone isn't just richer. They think differently, act differently, and navigate the world with a fundamentally different relationship to possibility. So if you're starting from zero right now, that's okay. Start small. Start today. Not because $10,000 is going to make you rich, but because the person you become while earning it is the foundation everything else gets built on. If this resonated with you, hit that subscribe button and leave a comment below telling me where you're starting from. I read every single one, and I'll see you in the next one.